Welcome to my kitchen, y'all. This is David Locke, and this is Boots and Bow Ties, my blog about everything cooking and everything gardening. And today I'm going to teach you how to make one of my favorite soups. This is my creamy pea and ham soup. The original recipe was by Ina Garten, and I've made it a cream-based soup, adding heavy cream and butter, so it's a little bit more southern. First, you're going to start with 2 pounds of English peas. This is actually one of my least favorite ingredients, but I will tell you, even if you're not a pea person, you will love this soup. My children love it, my family loves it, adults love it. You're going to want some prosciutto ham. You're going to want to prep 3 cloves of garlic, and we're going to mash these in a garlic press. 3 tablespoons of butter, a 1/4 cup of cream, 2 minced shallots. Of course, like most of my recipes, you're going to want pepper and salt. You're going to want 4 cups of chicken stock. Now, you could make this homemade, but let's get real here. Most of us don't have the time to make homemade chicken stock, so I buy it in the soup aisle, in my local grocery, in the box. And then you're also going to want a large Dutch oven. So we're going to go to the stovetop. I'm going to show you how we start to assemble this, and I promise you're going to have the best soup you have had in a long time. So before we start to assemble on the stovetop, I'm going to talk to you about some of the things that we'll be using for this soup. One thing is this tool. This is called an immersion blender. And if you don't have one of these and you plan on making a lot of soups, this is really an invaluable tool. Most of my soups that I create will have chunks of vegetable inside the soup. So what I do is I simply put the immersion blender down in the soup and puree my soup and finish it on the stovetop. If it's a really messy soup, sometimes I'll even put some protection down on my sink. Then I'll put the soup directly in my sink and use the immersion blender. If you don't have an immersion blender, then you're forced to work in batches with your food processor, which can be incredibly messy and it can be incredibly hot. Oftentimes I burned myself doing that. So immersion blender is something that's a great tool to have. A couple of things about the ingredients. If you've never used prosciutto ham, it's fairly expensive. It's about $10 for a pack of prosciutto ham. It is so worth it. It comes from Italy. The pigs are actually fed the whey products from the production of Parmesan cheese. So it creates this really marbled looking ham, and we're going to finish the soup with this, and it's going to really make a big difference. Another one is butter. And a lot of people ask me what type of butter I use. I usually use Kerrygold butter. Here's what it looks like. But you just want to make sure that you're using a premium butter. You can see this butter is fairly yellow. If your butter is whitish in color, then you're probably not buying a lot of milk solids, and it will change the taste of the butter. You're basically buying water. And one other ingredient I want to let you know about are shallots. And what are shallots? You can see they have sort of a purplish skin on the outside. Now, of course, I've minced these. They're a small onion. They're usually considered a gourmet onion. They have a less intense fragrance and flavor than regular onions, and they also have a little bit of a garlicky flavor to them as well, and they are just wonderful when you mix them with butter. So I wanted you to know about some of those ingredients, and now we're going to go to the stovetop and we're going to start assembling. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with some olive oil. That was one ingredient I didn't show you over there on the counter. I'm going to start with about 2 or 3 tablespoons of olive oil, and we're going to put this on medium heat. We're going to let this heat, and then we're going to start sauteing our shallots. Okay, so we put in our olive oil. This has gotten nice and hot. Now we're going to put in our shallots, and we're going to saute those until they're nice and translucent. So my shallots became translucent very quickly. Probably about 2 minutes they became translucent. Now I'm going to add, this is garlic, about 3 cloves that I have minced with the garlic press instead of using a knife. It just releases a little bit more of the flavor. We're going to cook that for 1 minute, and then we're going to add our peas and our stock. So we've cooked our garlic. It's become nice and fragrant. Now we're going to add in our 4 cups of stock. Of course, this will stop the cooking process. And then we're going to just simply add in our 2 pounds rather, of peas. Stir this around. We're going to turn it on medium-high heat, keep it stirred, and we're going to return this to a boil. So you can see the soup has come to a nice boil. I've stirred it a little bit, even put the lid on top of it to elicit a boil because the peas were frozen. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put it on medium-low, and we're going to simmer it for about 5 to 10 more minutes. So we're just working with that immersion blender, back and forth, up and down a little bit. Take a minute or two to get all of this well blended. So I've been working with the immersion blender for a while, and you can see I've got this very nice and creamy. This is taking about 2 minutes, and at this point what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my pepper and a little bit of salt. Then I'm going to pour in my cream and butter, and then I'll taste it one more time and adjust the seasoning one final time. Now we have the soup. It's nicely emulsified. I'll put in a little bit of salt. This is Himalayan sea salt. And a few cracks of black pepper. You don't want to over pepper this soup. Be really careful here. Now I'm going to put in my heavy cream. And I actually came up with putting heavy cream and butter in this soup. Was the first time I made it, I over seasoned it with pepper. And ended up having to add cream and butter to lessen the effects of the pepper. We'll just put that whole 3 tablespoons of butter in there. I know you feel like you're committing a sin, but it makes it taste so wonderfully good. And so we're going to stir all this in, let it melt really good, incorporate in, and then we're going to taste it one more time for salt and pepper. And now I'm going to show you how I prepare the prosciutto. Now I'm going to show you how to crisp up the prosciutto, which will be placed on the top of the soup. Now, of course, we could eat this prosciutto now. It's a preserved meat, and so it would not hurt you if you ate it. But it's so wonderful when you crisp this up in the oven. So I've preheated my oven to 425 degrees. I'm going to give a little light spray to a cooking sheet, and then I'm just going to take my ham and I'm going to place them on the cooking sheet. And I'm going to bake them in the oven for about 5 minutes, just until they become a little crispy. Make sure they don't burn. Then we're going to cut those into some smaller pieces and sprinkle it over our soup. So I have our nice crispy piece of ham here, and I'm just going to break that up a little bit. It's a little hard to eat if you don't break it up for the person. Then we're going to take a nice spoonful of our pea soup, spoon that into the bowl. Oh, doesn't that look beautiful? And then we'll just simply arrange a few pieces of that piece of prosciutto on top. Bon appetit!